Hello and welcome to the school budget training for principals and school leaders. Our budget department is ready to support our schools. The contents of this presentation include a review of school allocations, Section 7 funds, the role of human resources in supporting our schools from a personnel standpoint, and the budget cycle, timeframes, and resources that are available. I want to take this opportunity to talk about these four different departments. The budget department creates positions and allocates funding to support those positions. Human resources personnel manages the people part of that. So the posting, hiring, and movement of individuals within positions. Payroll manages the payment, and purchasing deals with the rules of buying and model procurement, as well as assuring that account codes match the expense types. School allocations include site-based allocations. Section 4, 5, and 6 of the Kentucky Administrative Regulations describe classified, certified, as well as operational requirements. We'll talk about district-managed add-ons, as well as we'll spend a little time talking about how to read accounts. Site-based allocations are formula-based approvals that are determined through the JCPS allocation standards approved by the board. At the top here, you'll just see what an example of the elementary allocation standards look like. Those are actually communicated to our schools through the site-based allocation form that you see highlighted in the bottom here. And you see where Section 4, 5, and 6 are emphasized within those allocations. Principals can go to the JCPS budget website to find their allocations, as well as all the forms that are being reviewed in this video. So school councils can buy or sell site-based positions, and in JCPS we use the average salary of actual filled positions within that job class. The change request form is listed here on the left, where you can indicate the type of position that's being deleted, and if the position currently exists, we ask that you list the position control number and the account. If a position's being added, a description of that position as well as an indication of the job class code. And you can see those job class codes on the right hand side here in the green column. Job class codes are unique to each type of position. Schools can add hours to positions. However, that must be completed by September 1st. Munis codes being adjusted are shown down here, and that's if you're buying a position and using some general fund operational money, or if the position that you're selling will leave money that will then go into an operational account. That's indicated here. And finally, every site-based change request form must be signed by an SBDM council or by the principal and assistant superintendent if a council doesn't exist. The positions that are available to be bought and sold by a school are listed here, along with the average salary. And again, these are the average salaries of actual filled positions. That doesn't necessarily mean that different positions will be paid at a higher rate. That's where the salary schedule and grade comes into play, and that's shown in the middle here of the average salary list. For example, an intervention teacher, a resource teacher, and a regular classroom teacher are all paid off of the same salary schedule. However, due to the people who are actually in those positions and the years experience that they have on average for those job classes, the average salary differs. District add-ons inform schools on the types of extra positions that the board provides to schools. These are assigned from a central office department for a specific purpose. And as you can see here, that will span anywhere from positions for athletics, for multilingual learners, for ECE, as well as our counseling, guidance, health, and other supports. Just want to talk very briefly about how to read an account code. So the account code has three major parts to it: the org, the object, and the project. The org is the first 7 digits. Those first 3 digits are the school's cost center number. The 4th digit is the type of fund. So 1 is for general fund and 2 is a grant. And then finally, the last 3 digits of the org is the key code, and that's what these yellow arrows are pointing to. The key code describes the category of that account, and that's defined by KDE. For example, at the top here, you'll see a yellow arrow pointing to a 124, referring to multilingual learners. 121 refers to ECE. And as you kind of scan down through here, you'll see in the middle here the 260 key code with the yellow arrow pointing to it. That refers to band allocations. And at the bottom here, you'll see that there's a bunch of different key codes for the different types of career pathways. So these key codes tell a story of the category of the expense. Now the object tells the type of expense. 4-digit objects refer to items such as general supplies or tech hardware. And that's in a green arrow you see at the top there for an example. But honestly, when you see other objects on this page like 011, 022, that is a teacher object. So that tells us a story about that account. And then finally, the last 5 digits is the project, which describes the funding source. For example, 900XS and XF refer to flex funds, as well as other projects you see listed here. So the school budget, kind of looking at a big picture of this, there's the site-based allocations, there's Section 7 funds, grants, and add-ons. So let's talk a little bit about Section 7 funds. This is Section 7 of the Kentucky Administrative Regs that are defined as funds for a specific purpose. And in JCPS, we have 2 different sets of section funds available for flexible allocation to schools. That's the racial equity funds, which are Project EQTXA, as well as our multilingual learners supplemental funds, which are Project MLSXA. And you'll find these in the add-ons. It's important to note on the left-hand side here, the racial equity funds are provided as a lump sum in the investment tracking system, even though there are positions designated for how much equity funding there is. The schools actually have to choose how to use that funding and request those positions in the investment tracking system. Our multilingual learner supplemental funds are new this year. There will be an investment tracking system available for principals to be submitting requests for those funds as well. So the process for requesting racial equity funds, by law, these Section 7 funds are under SBDM authority, and therefore they must be approved by SBDM Councils to address the goals and support the strategies that address racial disproportionality. Principal and/or committee will consult with the SBDM Council. Use of those funds will go through the Racial Equity Analysis Protocol, the REAP, and ultimately the requests for those funds are submitted in the investment tracking system along with the SBDM minutes and the REAP of that budget proposal. And upon approval by the assistant superintendent, who will confirm that the funds are being used as directed by the board, it'll then be directed to the budget department. Racial equity funds are provided annually to increase the support that schools are receiving, not to supplant it. Therefore, any positions that are purchased in equity funds cannot be sold in flex funds. Also, racial equity funds do not carry over, so put them to good use in the current year. If you want some ideas for the types of goals that these funds can help support in your racial equity plan, or some strategies for the use of those funds, you can refer to this slide or the school budget handbook. And this is just an example of a REAP for a budget proposal. A template is linked here. So I'm going to take this opportunity to plug the Kentucky Association of School Administrators. Just attended their Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Conference. Kentucky Association of School Administrators is the state school leaders association. I became a member when I first became an administrator in 2001. This organization not only provides advocacy in Frankfort, but also support for you as an individual principal for things that you may need professionally, as well as what you may need legally. I encourage you to check out ksa.org to learn more, or reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk with you. I was a board member for KSA for several years. In addition to our racial equity funds, our multilingual learner supplemental funds. These must be approved by SBDM as well, because they are Section 7 funds that are to address the goals and support strategies needed to support our ML learners. After consulting with SBDM, the principal will submit the budget proposal into the investment tracking system, and it is then directed to the multilingual department for review and approval prior to coming to the budget coordinator. And again, if you want some ideas of how to use these funds must be used to address the district goals have been created to support our ML students as listed here, as well as some strategies. So now let's talk about the role of human resources. So let's talk about the budget cycle and the resources that we have available to support our school principals. So the budget staffing cycle calendar really begins in November and December, when school principals receive the new year enrollment projections. They can review that and provide feedback to JCPS Geographic Information Systems. Look at enrollment projections historically, as well as population densities within the schools resides, as well as looking at everything from birth rates to new constructions. In January, the allocation standards go to the Board of Education for approval along with the draft budget. January 31st is the last day to sell back vacancies for the current year. However, after January 31st, if a new vacancy occurs, so someone leaves or retires, and the school does not plan on filling that position in the current year, they can work with the budget coordinator to sell that position back. February 1st, the school allocations are released, and they're due back on March 1st. Now, that's a fairly quick turnaround, but that's going to happen every year because we have a very tight time frame in order to prepare the position control and the new year budget for the new fiscal year. So from March until August, there's really no further staffing actions that are available to schools. That's very important because during that time frame, budget is creating the new year position control, and we're reconciling that with the new year budget in Munis, while HR is working with the schools, reconciling the current year position control with the number of positions that are available in the new year. During that time, schools are also working with human resources to advertise, recommend, and fill vacant positions. So this is just kind of a little visual of what those steps look like in that November-December period, with enrollment projections in January, with allocation standards being approved, a lot of activity happening for schools in February, and then a dead period from March to August. On July 1st, the new year position control becomes live position control. So that's when HR can actually start putting all the new hires and completing all the transfers that have been approved in new year position control. On August 1st, budget will reopen the investment tracking system for both equity funds and the multilingual supplemental funds. However, no new positions will be created till after the 10th day adjustment. That 10th day adjustment should occur by September 1st of every year. Even if that's not the 10th day, once we hit the 10th student day, do an analysis of the enrollments, actual enrollment for each school, And then there's meetings with assistant superintendents and the superintendent to discuss the impact on schools, whether it's gains or losses. When those 10th day adjustments are released to schools, they need to be meeting with their site-based councils to talk about how to use those funds. And then they will submit to their assistant superintendents and to budget the plan for using the 10th day adjustment. The School Budget Manual provides an overview of school allocations as well as numerous items for schools to better understand how to properly staff their school and the steps in completing the budget cycle process. So on this screen is just the 5 basic steps in completing and submitting the new year budget. Again, February 1, schools receive their school allocations. The school principal would then meet with the budget committee to review how the operational funds need to be allocated in the new year. This is very important, with July 1 being the switch over to the new fiscal year. During that time frame, while the finance division is finalizing the old finance report, we have to restrict schools from being able to move money around. So you need to put money where you think you're going to spend it, especially during the month of July and even into August. Ultimately, the budget committee submits a recommendation to the site-based council, and the council may accept those recommendations or revise them, but ultimately the council must approve all new year budget requests and proposals prior to them being submitted. And then finally, by March 1st, all forms and the investment tracking system must be completed. That includes the Section 6 comparison form, which indicates how the operational budgets are being established in the new year. The site-based staffing change request form, which is any buying or selling of position. And then the investment tracking system for racial equity funds and multilingual supplemental funds must be completed by March 1st, because on that date, the ITS will be turned off for new year budget until August 1st. Principals must complete the staffing management system online to indicate employees being retained or overstaffed. It's important to note that if employees are not overstaffed, the school is responsible for them. They will return to that school in the new year, and the school must allocate the staff or funding allocations to support that position. So let's talk a little bit about the Section 6 comparison worksheet. This is found on the budget website, and as you see here, this comparison worksheet provides the actuals, so what was actually spent in those accounts for the prior 2 years, and it shows what the revised budget was as of the date of this report for the current. So you want to look at these 3 columns to make sure that a new year budget has money allocated where you're actually spending it. So this Section 6 comparison worksheet must be completed along with the Munis report once this information is entered by whoever does your bookkeeping. So some important guidelines that you'll find in the school budget manual. Counselors are allocated in add-ons to protect the district's significant investment in these positions. All schools must have a librarian. That's part of our accreditation as a district. All schools must have a secretary. It's a very important role in making sure that our payroll is processed properly and the other supports of a school secretary are met. The classroom teacher safety net is a total of a 0.5 total classroom teacher as a protection if school enrollment is below the enrollment projection. So if the actual August enrollment is lower than projected, schools are protected up to the first half of a teacher allocation. Classified subs for EC instructional assistants are not the responsibility of a school. There is a maximum of 1 resource teacher and 2 maximum intervention teachers for each school, and that's due to the ongoing teacher shortage pandemic that does exist will likely continue from a national standpoint for the foreseeable future. It's important to note that teacher job classes are different for certain positions, as indicated here: band, orchestra, choir, CTE, ROTC, our elementary itinerants, and others. So just pay close attention to that job class. School technology coordinators are required for every school. That may be a position or a stipend. Department head allocations are provided and required by JCTA contract. There's an annual HR memo that prescribes that. And then finally, classroom overages. And here's the account code where they can be found. The project is letter O16XA. Any elementary schools who reduce their Section 4 primary classroom allocations, so that's your kindergarten or grades 1 through 5 teachers, if that's reduced in any way, just plan on paying the overages because you've reduced your general fund allotment for classroom teachers. Very quickly, some sellback rules when it comes to teachers. If you buy a teacher position in equity funds, or receive teacher positions in either the middle school teams, the VSNXA is our reduced class size for our choice zone schools, or other add-on positions in which schools receive extra teachers, then they cannot sell their flex positions. In other words, if you're being provided additional teacher positions as an add-on, you can't then go and sell the flex part of that. Vacant classroom teacher positions can be sold if, one, none of the restrictions I just mentioned apply. Two, the vacancy can't be associated with a transition teacher. These are the teachers who are awaiting their EPSB certification. So technically, they can't be placed in a teacher job class, but there is a vacancy associated with that person that's serving students in your school. Also, if there's a long-term sub that's been working in a teacher position, then the school can't sell that vacancy back. And as I've already mentioned, schools are limited on their ability to have resource and intervention teachers. It's carryover. So carryover is the remaining flex funds that a school has at the end of the year, minus any outstanding obligation. Some of those obligations may include encumbered funds. So if you have, say you have an outstanding PO or a requisition at the end of a fiscal year, the way that gets processed from a financial standpoint is it looks like it's returned to your available balance, but then it's immediately re-encumbered in the new fiscal year. So if you're looking at what your available balance looks like on June 30th versus what your July 1st balance looks like, you'll see this transaction happening. Overages are the school's responsibility, and these can be monitored in the account code that is listed there. Equity funds and multilingual support, additional funds do not carry over. So again, they need to be invested in the kids that you have in the current year, and they must be spent for the identified purpose and approved by the SBDM Council. So this should be done with lots of planning, not last minute spending. So just please kind of mentally prepare how to best utilize these funds because we want them going into schools. We don't want these funds to be coming back to the district any more than you do. There are a couple accounts that have been created to support our schools during this time of ongoing struggles to fill vacancies and find enough subs, and that's the UFSXA and VACXA. So the unfilled sub add-on UFSXA is to pay classroom teachers who are covering another class during their planning period because there was an unfilled sub. On the other hand, VACXA is used for a substitute teacher to cover due to a posted position that's vacant. This account can also be used to pay half-day subs. With approval from budget, the VACXA can also be used to pay for subs due to unpaid leave, and the principal should reach out to the EA of budget, that's me, to get approval for that, because ultimately these accounts are reviewed at the end of the school year, and any unauthorized use will be charged against the school's carryover. And then there are some accounts that do not get charged against the school's carryover because we have a responsibility to support these classified subs for ECE instructional assistants as well as for kindergarten instructional assistants. Nor do schools pay ECE teachers for their class size overages. There's a quarterly budget report that was just started this past year. This report, we're going to try to get it out every October, January, March, and June so that it can highlight important balances and expenses that should be monitored by the school principal and reported to the SBDM Council. These reports will include balances such as the overall flex balance, balances of use it or lose it accounts such as the ECE general supply and ML teacher general supply. It'll also indicate the balance within the investment tracking system for funds that are available to request a budget proposal. Now remember, the investment tracking system and Munis are two different platforms. Investment tracking system is where you request your funds, and Munis is where you're spending it. So it's your responsibility to monitor the actual expenses in Munis as well. And then as you see, there's several accounts that in my 12 years as a principal, I just felt like it was very important to closely monitor these particular accounts to see how much you are spending as a school on things such as certified extended time, part-time administrators that you're bringing in, classified extended time. Really, you should be monitoring these type of accounts on a monthly basis, not just at these quarterly updates. So position control, I want to spend just a few minutes here on how to read position control. Here's an example of one school, and what I want to highlight here is that position control is organized. It's driven by job class. The job class is unique to the type of position or the type of teacher we're going to be discussing here. It's not specific to a person. So position control number does not follow the person. It stays with the particular type of job that has been created for that school. So you should not rely on PC numbers, which are highlighted in red here on the left-hand side. You should not be relying on PC numbers for your classroom teacher counts. What you should be doing is counting the number of positions in each job class, which are boxed here. And you see in purple, there's 3 different job classes. In this case, kindergarten teacher, grades 1 through 5 teacher, and then at the bottom, itinerant teachers. And if we were to count these up, you see that there are 3 in the first box here, 3 kindergarten teachers. There's 8 grades 1 through 5 and 3 itinerants on this screen here. So that's how many total teachers they have. Now, if you change one job class teacher to another, that's going to change the position number of that you have in your position control. If you change the job class, you change the position number, but your total count should be the same as long as you're not buying or selling a position. If you have any questions or confusions about that, please reach out to your budget coordinator. They can help you with your position control. You'll also note, though, in the middle there, the key code that I talked about earlier is different for each of these 3 different job classes because that key code is describing the category of that position. 012 being your teacher of 5-year-olds. 118 is regular instruction, and then 263 is special area, itinerant instruction. I also just wanted to emphasize here a couple things. Number one, when you look at your position control, you'll often see these gray boxes. These gray boxes indicate split funded positions. So in this case, you see with the black arrows, you have split funded positions that are actually a school sharing positions with other schools. And then with the green arrows and the green box, you see a split funded position that's within the same school. And based on what we talked about with the count, codes, when you look at the accounts in the square box, can you tell why it's the same school? Well, when you look at the first three digits, which is the cost center of the school, you see the first three digits are the same for both accounts. So that means that this is a split funded position of a person that's 100% staying in one school. Also just wanted to emphasize on this screen that your ECE and your ELD, your English Learning Development teachers, formerly ESL teachers, are listed as different job classes as well. So you want to make sure you include those in your counts as appropriate. And then finally, don't forget that some of your positions may be grant funded, and those are listed separately. They're under what's called Special Revenue Fund 2, and those are near the end of your position control. So just make sure that you are watching where your positions are on your position control and you're counting them in your total teacher count. And again, highlighted here are the job class. You see here the key code 121. It refers to ECE. Then in the middle there, you see the 337JA is referring to the funding source, which in this case it's IDEA funding for the ECE position. And then finally, the percent of that position, in this case, half of the position is funded through IDEA. The other half, I can tell by looking at the gray box there, the other half is at that school funded through General Fund ECE. For principals who are interested, there are staffing templates for master scheduling linked here. You can use your position control and make sure that all your teachers are accounted for and start placing them into this master scheduling template. And this is created, there's one for elementary, one for middle, as well as one for high schools. And this is just for a principal's reference if they don't have another strategy or spreadsheet that they've already become comfortable with and does the job for them. A new principal may find this helpful in figuring out how to place all these different positions, different funding sources into an organized manner to cross-reference your allocations against your position control and then seeing how those fit into how you're scheduling in a school. Finally, if you've ever gotten an email from me, you have the budget resources and updates here. This is basically my live newsletter of all the information that's happening coming out of budget. I also kind of handpick things coming out of HR and payroll and include them here for things I think that are important for school principals. Every February, there will be virtual trainings for all principals, as well as in-person trainings in group, as well as the whole second half of February. I will always hold the entire month open to schedule one-on-one, 1-hour trainings with principals who request them. So you can simply send me an email or a calendar invite. I usually do 40, 50 of those individual meetings every year. And I love it. That's what I get excited about. That's what I'm here for, how to help you all out. Thank you so much for sticking through this video. Remember, principals, what you do makes a difference.